Hey guys, this is the Professor, and I would like to welcome you to Scrounge Craft Camping Part 2. This is the overnight, and so first of all, you're joining me inside my shelter, which is a big old piece of plastic drop cloth. And so I've repurposed that for a tent. What I've done here is to stretch a ridge line. You can see the ridge line. They're stretched between two conveniently spaced trees. And then we've pulled that down on the outside here. We have some buttons, which we picked up some small rocks. Tied a clove hitch around that, stretched that out to a stake, and used the taut line hitch to pull it up pretty tight. So we've got the wind kind of coming off here from the south tonight. Lows forecast at 60, so we shouldn't really need too much in the way of insulation. But what we have here from Brazito is an assortment of bedding insulation materials. First of all, this material here on the top is a closed cell foam. It's about 1/8 of an inch thick, but there's several different layers of that. And this stuff is very tough. It's a wrapping or kind of a packing material. And underneath that we have a large amount of bubble wrap. And so this is like filled with those little pockets of air that you get like in packing. Of course, underneath that you see our ground cloth. Did a separate thread on that for basically the cat food bags, which are sewed together, 4 cat food bags. And that makes a ground cloth here that's big enough here to cover all of our bed area. So we'll get all of this information spread out here, our bedding. And of course then I've got to show you here one item I'm particularly proud of. This is my sleeping bag for the night. This is a kind of an old double-sized quilt. Notice the multiflora camo pattern, which blends into some beautiful blue flowers somewhere in the world, maybe in the snow. So maybe these are snow pansies. I'm not just sure what they are. Anyway, we used to have this on our bed at home, but it was very slippery. It was polyester material, very much like sleeping bags. Very, very slippery material. So we'd put this on the bed. Now the next morning we'd wake up cold because this had slipped off during the night. Diane's mother had the idea of sewing on a sheet on the inside. I thought that would give it some friction. It really didn't. So what we've done with this now is relegate this to packing material. Like when our daughter moved to her apartment, we used this to pack around her furniture so that it didn't get scratched, and it's been in the garage ever since. There's some worn spots on there, some scuffs, but I think it'll work just fine for tonight. So what we're going to do is kind of just consider this a sleeping bag. It's got a sheet on the inside, and it's got fiberfill insulation in it with a low of 60. I don't think we're going to need too much, so we'll get that spread out here for our sleeping bag. And then for the coup de grace, the pillow, what we have here is a pillow slash blanket. What happens here is the pillow basically is formed by the blanket being folded up, and then it tucks inside of this pocket. We found this item while driving down the highway one day. The whole thing had blown out of the back of the truck. Someone had. There was some duct tape on it, so they had probably been using this to pack furniture with. But it blew off of their truck. We went back and picked it up. It was bright red. When we found it, we realized it was one of these pillow blankets and said, wow, this is a great thing. Have no way to ever get it back to its original owners, so we will just repurpose this as a camp pillow, and it also doubles as a blanket because this will unfold into kind of a nice blanket as well. So here is my bed and shelter for the night. We're set up pretty much there with our sleeping bag ready to go to bed as soon as it gets dark here. And so what we need to do now is to move on with the rest of the camp preparations and get about making our supper. So we'll see you over there on part 3 of Scrounge Craft Camping with the Professor.